Miller.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Beauchamp. Here. Goodlow. Here. Lilquist. Here. Elliott.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Palmer.
Here.
And Ms. Thompson.
I'm here.
Is going to be attending.
Thank you.
He's here. Thank you. We'll start off with item 2A, page 6. This is National Black History Month. We are reading the proclamations again. Does anybody want to read it or do so?
We're going to be reading all of them for 2026.
We're going to be reading them unless they become problematic.
We'll read them all. All of them. Go for it.
Okay, this is Honoring Black History Month 2026. Whereas the city of Ellensburg recognized the significance of Black History Month, a time to honor and celebrate the rich cultural heritage, achievements, and contributions of African Americans to our city, state, and nation. And whereas African Americans have been integral to the development and progress of Ellensburg, from pioneer community leaders to contemporary innovators, artists, educators, and public servants. And whereas Black History Month serves as a reminder of the enduring struggle for civil rights and social justice. And whereas the city of Ellensburg is committed to promoting understanding among all residents and to ensuring the contributions of African Americans are recognized, appreciated, and celebrated. Now, therefore, the mayor of the city of Ellensburg hereby proclaims February 2026 as Black History Month in Ellensburg and encourages all citizens to join in celebrating the achievements and contributions of African Americans, and let us engage in meaningful activities that honor the legacy of Black history and inspire future equality and justice for all. And that was signed by myself. So, thank you. No awards or recognition. We will move to the agenda, but before we do so, anybody in the audience or on council wish to remove an item from consent agenda and place it on the agenda? Seeing none, we move back to approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Vote aye. Opposed? That motion passes. We move to approval of the consent agenda. This is page 7 through 40 in the agenda packet.
Mr. Mayor, I move consent agenda.
We have a motion second to move consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I too will vote aye. Opposed? I will pause for you, Josh. Sorry about that. Opposed? That motion passes. Item 6A, which is a presentation, Yakima Basin Fish Wildlife Recovery Board presentation.
Okay.
Well, welcome and thank you for the invitation to present to you tonight. I'm here, Alex Conley, Executive Director for the Yakima Basin Fish and Wildlife Recovery Board. And we always appreciate the chance to get out and say hello to our member cities, to remind them who we are, though in this case, I see a lot of familiar faces, and also to touch base a bit about what we're doing and have a conversation about the board's role and how it relates to what's on our members' dockets. So I've been the executive director of the board now for almost 20 years. Crazy. Nancy was there when I was hired on my hiring committee. So it's been a long time, but I did start off with just a quick overview of who we are and how many of you feel like you know the details of our bylaws and all the details, and how many are going, I vaguely remember that we're a member, maybe. Let's see, what's the best click here? Okay. We're a funny structure, and it's worth repeating just because we were created under an ILA signed by 18 cities, 3 counties in the Yakima Nation. was actually the first time Yakima Nation and the counties agreed to enter into a consensus-based organization. And the ILA, it creates a special district. So we are legally a special district, the board, and that special district meets with all its members once a year in August. And the board's first action was to create a nonprofit to do the business of the board, using the direction given by the board in that annual meeting. And the board of directors members of the nonprofit are all selected from the members, but just 10 out of those 20 odd governments at any one point have representation on the board of directors. And we've got slots that are for each of the counties has a designated slot, the nation has a slot, and then 2 cities from each of the counties, 2 Kittitas, 2 Benton counties. And that board of directors meets not as the special district, but of the board of directors of a nonprofit about 6 times a year. And that's really where we do the business of the board, implementing the work plan, budget, all that came from that once a year. And I go into it just because, and I see some head nods because a lot of you guys think a lot about governance. It's a funny public-private structure. It's worked really well for us. It lets us operate pretty nimbly as a nonprofit, but always try and be accountable to our member governments. And that's part of why we're here tonight. It's just making sure we keep that connection alive. So it's not just that once a year annual meeting with all members. I will say that Ellensburg has always been really connected to the board because you've always held one of the 2 city seats from Kittitas County. There's always been interest, and that's been hugely appreciated. So that's sort of our structure. And our mission: to conserve and restore sustainable and harvestable populations of native fish and wildlife species in close partnership with the communities of the Yakima River Basin. And the key is, we're about conserving fish and wildlife, and most of the focus over our 20 years has been on listed fish species, steelhead, bull trout, also on salmon, lamprey, but it's really focused on the aquatic side. There are lots of entities doing that work. What makes us unique is a real emphasis on in close partnership with the local communities. Go back to the listings in 1999, and there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of sense that the heavies in the federal government and the state were going to force local communities and local stakeholders into positions that were going to be troublesome for them. A lot of the impetus for the board saying great, we want to save salmon and steelhead too, but we want a seat at the table, and we want to know the programs are implemented in ways that we can turn to the city council and this is done in a way that works for the city of Ellensburg, for the Yakima Nation, for Benton County. So that's a critical part of our mission. Here's our current membership, just so you can see. These are the 10 board of directors members and their alternates. It's been great having Delano join Nancy as an alternate. She soldiered alone for many years, and really appreciate the interest he's shown in our work. And you can see who else from around Kittitas County and the rest of the basin. Oops. 4 main roles: acting as the lead entity for the Yakima Basin. I'll say what the heck that bureaucratic term means in a sec. Developing and implementing recovery plans, coordinating monitoring, conducting outreach. So the surfboard funding process is a state program created back in '99 when the salmon and steelhead were listed, that took some of the federal monies that came in with the listings and some state monies, combined them, and then turned to local communities and said, if you organize a lead entity, you guys tell us what to fund. We make sure that it passes the red face test from a technical point of view, and we'll turn around and fund what the local communities recommend through these lead entities.
Alex, just make sure you're talking into the mic. When you turn away, it'll be hard for them to hear on the online.
So we are the lead entity for the Yakima Basin. We work closely with the state Salmon Recovery Funding Board, which is housed in RCO, which you guys work with on a lot of different programs. And we run a pretty intensive grant review process. So soliciting proposals, putting through a technical review with people out of a lot of local agencies and other partners, putting them through a citizens committee review that includes 4 citizens from each of the 3 counties in the Yakima Nation, whose representation runs from ag to interest in fishing to business folks. And the goal there is really to say, great, the technical folks say this is a great project. but do we see any real pluses or any problems with it in terms of how it impacts our communities? And each year we give a funding list to the state, and they have, without fail, except for maybe 3 occasions, funded what we present them. They have the right to pull something off if they think it's not technically sound, but we work hard to avoid it. So we have funded 181 projects through the surfboard in the basin. It's a total of 47 million over the 25 years since the first project started. We probably averaged over the last decade 2 million a year. We've had years where there were more, some of the infrastructure years, we've lean years. And a ton of that's been around Ellensburg. See that big yellow dot? That means the density of projects was too much to put them on the basin map. So that lower right panel is around Ellensburg, and you can hardly see Ellensburg for the projects, and we'll talk again. So a lot of work in and around Ellensburg, really around it in the valley. So that's our project side. Our planning role, the Endangered Species Act says you need a recovery plan, historically done by the federal agency and left on a shelf. I don't know what burst of creativity and collaboration hit in the late 90s, early 2000s, but the federal government worked with the state government. And not only did they say, we'll let locals prioritize projects for funding, they said, you write us a recovery plan. If it meets our scientific scrutiny, we will accept that as what's needed for ESA recovery in the basin. We spent a lot of years writing our steelhead recovery plan, which first came out in 2009, a bull trout plan in 2012, in the middle of an update that we should be done with in a little bit of the bull trout action plan right now. So a lot of strategic planning, a lot of pulling in all the partners so that hopefully anything in this plan lives up to our motto of recovering the fish in a way that the local communities can support. This is our roadmaps to how to do that. And that planning, we're doing some update work, but really the plans are done. Our focus is on implementing it. And the nice thing is once it's in a plan, that puts it within our mandate, our work plan to say anything we can do to help it happen. We don't do projects. We explicitly don't want to compete with others that are applying to us for funding. But if we can support the politics, if we can help someone find other funding to match surfboard funding, if we can get involved in helping find a priority project and work with the biologist to say, here's what would actually help, that's in our purview. And that's a big part of our work plan, is just helping make sure we're helping the pieces move to get these projects going. At its best, they're awesome multi-benefit projects that everyone loves. At its worst, it's so many multiple levels of bureaucracy and politics and technical aspects in these projects. It's a ton of work to keep it moving, but we've got great partnerships in the basin. It's been really rewarding. There's always then the question of, is it working? And so we've been working hard to, again, we're not doing the monitoring in the field. Yakima Nation, WDFW, a lot of others are doing the actual monitoring in the field. That question, what do we need to do? How do we ask it? How do we get that data? How do we fund monitoring programs? Everyone loves to fund capital projects. Everyone loves to be the last funder on a big capital project and get the scissors. Nobody wants to fund monitoring or the design stages. So a lot of our work is how do you help that happen? We do a lot of outreach, and in recent years, the board's really focused on outreach to decision makers, working with the agencies on how do we set the policies for salmon programs in ways that support all the work happening locally. We just came back from Salmon Days and a lot of outreach to lawmakers. And there's a lot of interest when people hear, oh, yeah, we hear a lot from people that want this or that for the fish. But tell us about how it connects to local communities in your part of the state. We get a good reception. So outreach has been a big part of what we do. In terms of our crossover with the city, well, shoot, you got a bunch of creeks right through the city. Wilson, Whiskey, and Mercer, and like we'll talk about in a second, they're complicated creeks. They're small creeks, but they're complicated. They're part of a big puzzle we've been working to unwind. You've got the Reeser Creek floodplain. You know, many of you may remember the big surfboard projects that accompanied the early floodplain by design projects, the levee setback work there. You guys have invested a ton in combining recreation, flood, and fish work over there. And I would hazard a guess, I haven't seen the flood model, that all those levee setbacks probably paid off pretty well come December in terms of cutting off the water coming into the west side of town. And the habitat on the riverside or the stream side of those levees has really taken off, as any of you have been out there know. We've been really involved working with the county, with the Yakima Basin Integrated Plan, and with the city on the all the work that's happening just at the edge of and outside of the city down to the canyon, which biggest impact for you is the wastewater treatment plant and the Twin Cities spray fields. You know, the county has done a really great job putting together a comprehensive approach to floodplain restoration. We've been excited to help support that. Stormwater management, folks have retired, but you guys, I think, still have a great program going, and that's an area of crossover. The riparian critical area management, what matters most for fish? How does that relate to all of the other mandates you guys are working with, potential trail locations, parks, et cetera, and flood management, like we talked about. We love those multi-benefit projects where there's habitat on one side of a levee and a dry neighborhood on the other side. And tons of crossover with recreation, you know, a lot of talk with all that work that the county's doing on, can we connect the trail network that's been proposed up from the canyon through the city? How does that fit in? So lots of areas we end up talking with folks about work in the city of Ellensburg. And really, I mentioned earlier, you got small streams, but complicated ones. This is crazy. There are not that many places, and I don't have a pointer, but you see where the big Y is in the middle of the top? That's Wilson Creek dropping into Nanum Creek right at the canyon up there. Not many places do we have a creek come together into one creek out of the mountains, promptly split 5 ways, and then come back together again into one before the bottom. And this puzzle of, okay, there's beautiful habitat up high. There's tons of barriers. The green dots are just barriers that have been fixed. A lot out here in the valley. Annalale and the Kittitas Conservation District have been amazing on that. The county's done some work. You'll notice not a ton of dots in the city. And part of the puzzle is, which of these routes do we prioritize and how? Do we work to get fish to the east of the city? Just on the west side in Whiskey Creek, through the city, under the city? It's tangled and complicated. So yeah, you guys have some interesting puzzles and thinking about the streams in the city and how they fit in with all the work we've been doing to try and talk about how do we get them up high. Very much a work in progress. And Nancy mentioned maybe a little bit of interest in a water year update and the fish update. So on my slides there, and then go to questions. And see that blue line? We went from competing for the lowest ever reservoir levels. The red line is average, the green is last year, blue is this year, to just in 1 month being among the highest ever reservoir levels. Already the reservoirs across the basin are fuller than they ever got last year in June. So crazy to see how much water we've stored, which is a great sign for next year's water year. The challenge, our snowpack isn't the worst it's ever been. That red line's basically 2005, but dang it, it snows a little bit and then it stops, and we just haven't been piling up the snow. We're still most of 60 days away from peak snowfall, and a lot can happen. So I'm not yet we're going into a major drought mode, but everyone, not just the skiers, anyone who cares about water is looking at the snowpack right now and going, what's up? So we'll see what it means for our water year next year. The full reservoir means that we shouldn't see the same level of drought impacts that KRD and others have suffered in recent years. But it's certainly possible we have still significant impacts depending what the snow does. So, and the final one's the fish counts. And you can see over the last 20 years, some big picture things. You go from just blue and red, just steelhead and spring Chinook, to seeing coho and fall Chinook come back into the basin, to seeing the purple is sockeye reintroduction. So more colors means more fish coming back. You can see we were feeling pretty cocky in the mid 2010s. Fish were coming, we'd been working hard and the numbers were going up. And then we just crashed. Part of it's the ocean, but part of it was also challenges in the Yakima Basin getting our young fish to the sea. We do pretty well at producing fish high up in our basin, and our challenge is getting them out to the ocean and back again. You guys contribute a ton to that in Kittitas County to the producing the young fish, and we have to get them through the rest of the river on their way out. But you can also see we have seen some uptick. We were scared for a while that we were really crashing. We've seen enough of an uptick across most of our species to feel pretty good. And we're seeing year to year, this is actually a good year for summer Chinook. which are the only fish that would spawn in, say, the canyon reach. Lamprey, things are getting a little better for steelhead, which had us scared for a bit. They're looking not great, but a lot better. It's a mediocre year for other runs. It was a poor year for sockeye. So as the Lake Cle Elum comes on, that's Fish Passage, whose primary goal is to get sockeye back up. We now have the ability to get them in the lake, and in a good year, they come up the Yakima in June, July, and we can see thousands of them. And with what that work done at the lake, we see that really increase. In a bad year like our last few, we had about 50 sockeye that made it through because they're coming in right when the river's heating up. So those puzzles of the lower river down in Benton County, part of our role as a board is to say, hey, these folks in Kittitas County have invested a ton in habitat. We need to work in Benton County too. That's part of that partnership across the different entities. So that's where I'll end my talking part, other than to say thank you for all the support that the city has given over the years. And just open up to any questions, comments, thoughts.
Well, first, Alex, I'll say that one, thank you for the presentation, and I do appreciate being on the board. For somebody that's not from the region, this has been an amazing crash course into everything about this wonderful area of the country. And I'll just highlight one thing you didn't talk about was the Gold Creek project, and I think that's an exceptional example of their collaboration with the tribes. Watching them out there being able to catch the fish as they move them physically in coordination with them has been fantastic. So it's a great project.
And we went there as part of the tour for our annual meeting. So if you ever want to get out and see some projects, let us know, whether it's our annual meeting or other project tours. We love getting people out.
Any other questions from council?
No, just thanks for coming. That was a really good overview of both the
And I-
structure and the technical.
Yeah, and so many of you have seen it before, but I hope that it's still useful to check in like this. And I hope that if there are any issues, whether it's at council level or through staff, we're here for our members. And we get busy with the things we do, but we also always want to hear if you've got an idea or a thorny issue, anything where talking with people that are immersed in the fish and wildlife side of it can be helpful, or whether it's talking about funding strategies for projects that touch multiple benefits. We are there and want to be here for our members.
Thank you. Does anybody in the audience wish to comment on this? It'll be online. Thank you.
And we appreciate you keeping us up to date.
Does anyone want, you can find this all on the web, but if you want the updated version of our project booklet,
I have the last one.
Which is hand them to the city clerk and then we'll
I'll take one. Thank you.
I'll take a new
We'll
one.
just take it.
there's somebody in the audience that wants one.
It sounded like somebody in
Somebody
the
in the
audience.
audience wants one in the back green hat. Okay, before we move into public comment on non-agenda items, I just want to just briefly mention to council members and to the audience, we are going to, in council member reports, going to talk about an issue related to COG and sort of the issues surrounding the president of the university and our COG's role, the city council's role in being involved in that. So it's going to be talked about in a time when we don't typically accept public comment. So if you're here to talk about that, that works. Other than that, we'll move. So again, we have nobody online, so go right to 3-minute conversation. All speakers, cumulative total 30 minutes unless we extend by a vote of the council. Don't identify yourself as a candidate or discuss a ballot proposition for or against. Address an item over that's identified on the registration form, must concern city business and over which the city has control. State your name, live in Ellensburg, Kittitas County or elsewhere, representing yourself or others, and state the topic at which you wish to speak before making your comments. Please do not engage in conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the conduct of the city council meeting. And again, normally we don't respond, but we may give you some direction afterwards. First signed up is Mr. Kelleher to talk about the pool with smiley faces.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pat Kelleher, Ellensburg. Member of Pool First, sole member of Pool First. Pool First, I want you to take care of your streets, your sewer, The officer over here, make sure he gets paid. Humane shelter, make sure it gets funded. Then when it's all that's taken care of, then we get to the frosting. The frosting that makes it nice to live in Ellensburg. And I think the pool's first. If you got money for frosting, let's do the pool. You also, on your website, have a rumors and questions deal. What question do you have about the city of Ellensburg? Have you ever heard a rumor that you want to check and let us know? Okay, ask a question. Hello. Can you update me on the current status of the Kittitas Memorial Pool leaking roof? Regards, Pat Kelleher. I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Kelleher. Is anybody else in the audience? And nobody signed up online. So we're going to move to item 10A, page 41 in the packet. This is a review of Ellensburg City Code, Chapter 1.88, which continues the discussion on the DEI Commission role, duties, and responsibilities. And this will be open for public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Heidi Barron, Away City Manager. So this is a continued discussion for council and of Chapter 1.88, which is the framing of the DEI Commission in City Code. As you recall, we held a joint study session with the commission on January 20th. And what we did is we deconstructed the city code with the duties and responsibilities section to really focus on refreshing the activities and providing some council direction to the commission about how to reshape the work of the commission. And as a reminder, the city has 13 different boards and commissions. And from time to time, if you recall this last fall, we took some time to reshape the duties and responsibilities of the Environmental Commission and making that clearer and clear responsibilities of our Ellensburg Transportation Advisory Committee and also Utility Advisory Committee. So, and then with the discussions over the last year and discussions about DEI in general, there's a fair amount of confusion about what those terms mean and really guidance for the work of the commission. So in our joint study session, we had the ability to start a conversation about the duties and responsibilities. And we'd like to continue that conversation with council to provide some additional clarification on the work of the commission and the naming of the commission. So in your packet tonight, staff have reviewed the discussion from January 20th. You also have the posters that were around the room, and the comments really clarified and laid out as a part of your packet. And so that's in a PowerPoint presentation. You have the work of the commission for 2025. It was their work program. And then you have a copy of the Chapter 1.88 as it stands today. So the questions that staff have framed based on the previous discussion, we saw some themes around access and community cultural engagement issues. And we framed A through F in your packet on page 42 about some of the themes that we saw as priorities for council. And the question are these themes accurate? Do they capture the council thoughts? And is there some additional guidance that you can provide to staff? What our intent is from council guidance that we get today and from your previous discussion that we will draft some changes to the Chapter 1.88 that will make it back to council. So tonight is an opportunity and a request from staff for guidance on the future work of the commission. And that would include the name of the commission. And so, and Mayor, I don't know if you want to manage sort of an A to F or how you'd like to handle the discussion.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to, Josh, we didn't go over this. You're online. If probably the best way for you is just raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you as quickly as I can, if that works.
Will do.
Okay. So I guess to start the conversation, a couple of months ago and realized that some things have changed a little bit, but a couple of months ago, we had a conversation, and part of that conversation was that based on some direct guidance or the interpretation of direct guidance, that some of our language in our Ellensburg City Code is actually problematic and was making employees like uncomfortable to like sign things, whether they be grant applications or whatever. And I guess, to me, that feels like an item that we absolutely need to resolve. And sort of get back onto a plane where we're not asking people to sign things that, potentially make them really uncomfortable, from a legal standpoint. So I guess I would maybe yield to the city attorney and, maybe to bring up those points that, hey, here's the language in the Ellensburg City Code that is potentially problematic.
So maybe I would answer, and I will ask the city attorney to nudge me and he can take over. So particularly the section of the composition of the chapter is something that we need to change. And so that is a given. And so to make changes to the code, staff could bring back just those elements. When we open up a city ordinance, it's important if we have additional guidance to make those changes. It's a lot of work to open up the changes in city code. And that's why we're really asking you for guidance, not on the composition. We have language for that. It's really about the work and of the DEI Commission. All boards or commissions, again, they serve at the leisure of the council. They're framed by the council. They are set up to guide you. And so this is your opportunity to sort of reframe that. And so again, the composition of the language and the composition of the commission needs to be changed. We have a recommendation for that, but it's about the rest of the work of the commission specifically. We're asking you for guidance on.
Okay. So, so that's coming back regardless at some point. Okay, good.
Okay.
So I guess I would throw back to council, maybe we deal with, do we need to rename the commission? And this parallels a conversation that we've had about potentially infusing some of the other comp plan chapters with the concepts and role. The ordinance says we have a commission.
Right.
And it does give some, which is going to be the next section, we talk about duty and responsibilities. But those terms are being searched. And do we as a council want to, potentially address that ahead of the conversation about duty and responsibilities?
I think so. That's just me.
Yes.
Okay. So I would agree as well. So why don't we start there, because maybe that'll frame the conversation about duty and responsibility. So we're talking about the terminology we use to name this commission at this point. Is there suggestions?
So I'll throw out there, I go back to the Braver Angels events. The intent there was to try to bring the city together as far as conversation, to make sure that everybody has a better understanding. And part of the deliverables from that was regarding Chapter 9 of the comprehensive plan and how do we identify it? What are we doing as far as the content of it? What are we doing as far as the name? So to me, kind of matching some of the deliverables that came about regarding the comprehensive plan, to me, it would make sense that there's some consistency as far as messaging, and that maybe the commission could be renamed Access, Engagement, and Belonging, and fulfilling and kind of following along with what we have currently as the current title of the Chapter 9 of the comprehensive plan.
I like the simpler Community Engagement Commission because it encompasses access and belonging
And I'll be fine with
in
that.
that name.
Right. I'd be fine with that.
I have a similar take on that. This isn't anything profound, but I think something along the lines of our community commission. And basically it's local roots to our community and those who live, work, and visit here. The belonging and engagement should occur, but I'm not sure that that's central to naming the commission.
Okay, so we've got a couple suggestions. Sarah, Nancy, Josh.
Yeah, I'm okay with community engagement for sure. The stumbling block for me is we just went through a period where a large portion of the city said this isn't ours. So that would be my one takeaway. Community engagement, I'm good with.
Sarah, do you have any?
No, I just wanted to have, do you want to repeat your access, belonging?
Yeah, it was either matching the comprehensive title, the current comprehensive chapter 9 title, which is access, engaging, and belonging. And I'm fine with Nancy Loquist's suggestion as far as the Community Engagement Commission. I think both of those fulfill the messaging that came out of the Braver Angels conversation as far as trying to meet in the middle to celebrate our community as a whole, and also identify and recognize all the participants in our community.
And I would add that I think access is a piece of engagement. And so I definitely think access needs to be part of the duties and responsibilities, advising the council on how to make it easier to access the council, but access on its own, I think of physical access. to
Sure.
Communities, so, no.
So sensing an opportunity to maybe get past something, not trying to short circuit the conversation about name, because it's really about what we do and how we carry it out. Is it reasonable, maybe to make a motion and we'll discuss your suggestion?
I'll move to rename the DEI Commission, the Community Engagement Commission.
I'll
Second.
second.
So we have a motion and a second to replace Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission with Community Engagement Commission in
Mayor-
chapter 1.88.
Mayor, this item also has public comment, so I don't know how you want to do that and when you want to do that.
Oh,
Yep. We'll probably need our.
Let's do these kind of individually. So I will open up to conversations specifically about about the naming of the commission. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak? Same rules, 3 minutes.
Hello, William Coleman, resident of Kittitas. I like the name community engagement. Are we going to make sure it engages the community? Or is it still going to be for a certain class of people and not others? So I'd like to see the DEI Commission members removed and appoint new members too. Let's start fresh with something
Mr.
on.
Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman, stay on the subject, please. We're talking about
done.
the name. Okay,
Yeah.
name only right now. Thank you.
Good name.
Thank you.
Have it matter.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Nobody online? Oh, Mr. Kelleher.
Pat Kelleher, Ellensburg. I'm a little confused. I came here to speak tonight on, your item in general. And I just want to know where my little slice of bologna comes. And I could do it right now, or because I don't know when the public comment is coming in. So I'm a little confused.
We're gonna handle these sort of one by one when we get to duties and responsibilities. If you're talking about that, if you're talking about the impact on the comprehensive plan, that's really not on the agenda tonight. It's the ordinance which will drive those conversations later in the comprehensive planning process. So if it's about duty and responsibilities or membership right now, that's not on the table right now. Because we're going to get to the composition piece here in a second. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else want to talk about, because we're going to vote on the name? Yes.
I have a comment.
Beryl Kelly, Ellensburg resident, representing myself. And I like the name Community Engagement. It's a change. It doesn't carry any baggage. And I think that we can start moving towards really including all of the community with that name. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Back to council conversation. Nancy.
So
I didn't know that we were going to be voting on a name tonight. I would like to give the commission a chance to weigh in on the name. It's our prerogative to.
So I guess I would say we're not actually making the change. We're telling staff to bring it back to us for ordinance change. So there's 2 more meetings that are going to occur after this where we have to vote on whatever we tell staff, but we have to give staff direction on what to bring back. So that's what we're voting
So we were voting on the name of the commission.
on. We're voting on what we want the name to be. It'll come back to us as an ordinance 2 times, first reading and second reading, because we can't change an ordinance tonight.
Yeah.
So
So if the commission wants to be involved or should be involved in the name of the commission, they can do that during when?
like anytime in the next 2 meetings, if we direct staff to come back at the next meeting.
Yeah, so the DEI commission,
Earliest this would happen would be next meeting, we could have first reading. Meeting after that, we could have second reading. That would be the absolute earliest,
And
fastest this could
likely,
happen.
yes, capacity wise, the first reading would be the second meeting in March. So we'll have time to bring this
Month and
for
a half.
discussion back
Okay.
to the DEI Commission.
And just again, so the audience understands that we're not changing the ordinance. We're directing the audience, we're directing staff to bring recommended changes back to us in language form.
And for the record, I'm not averse to community engagement, but I feel like the commission should have a voice in this decision.
Anybody else? Okay, so we're voting as a council to direct staff to bring back a language change that would rename the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, Community Engagement Commission, understanding that we will vote at least 2 more times on this span of probably at least a month and a half. Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I too will vote aye. Opposed.
Aye.
That motion passes. Okay. Does anybody see anything in the first section, creation and purpose, that they wish to discuss? And we'll walk through it chronologically, or not chronologically, but numerically here for the audience. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to look at that.
Well, the name.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, it'll follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll fall through. Any of those things that has been identified as a risk that we had kind of talked about from an ordinance standpoint, the staff is already going to bring that back. But anything else?
Yeah, Josh here. Just to throw this out there, I've raised this before about the size of the commission itself being 9 members. It's the only committee or commission that is that big, and it's 2 seats bigger than the city council itself. So I would raise that. I would want to bring that at least back to 7 and bring it in line with the rest of our committees and commissions.
Okay, somebody want to have a conversation regarding that?
This is more for staff. Like, is there state precedence as far as the commission side, or is that just city by city and then commission by commission and whatever a city council appoints?
The city council creates these commissions, and so it's really your rules.
Gotcha.
Okay, so before,
9 sitting members right now. Are there vacant spots?
One vacancy.
as I recall, the purpose of expanding from 7 to 9 was to engage more of the community and more,
Diversity of thought.
well, the members have different communities within, sub-communities within the community. So it just allows for broader representation.
It-
This is a question for Nancy Goodlow. Do you know? Sorry, Josh. Go ahead, bud.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, that would make sense, but what we just went through with Jeff St. John, where he was kind of, from the outside looks like singled out for being at least a moderate by all standards. If we're
let's say
really trying to
number of
bring
candidates.
what's that?
Number of candidates, composition is next. Right? So
Well,
inside,
I was saying, my response was, that if it was expanded to 9, which was the point I brought up, to represent more viewpoints. And I'm saying we just went through something that looks like we're representing fewer viewpoints with this larger body. That was my point, tying it into 9.
Okay, so I'm going to gain if we go to a motion and potentially a second to recommend this, we're going to have the audience speak up. This is about, go ahead.
Yeah, so my dilemma with changing from 9 now is that we currently have 8 on the commission, which means if we were to go back down to 7, somebody has to come off the commission, either voluntarily or forced removal.
You can do it by attrition when
Or-
they come due.
That's true. Okay, you can do that, but then you might have even on the voting and stuff like that. If you're at 9, I guess when it comes down to it, just like any other commission, there's a majority makes a vote. As long as you have enough in place to be able to make a vote, and it's as long as it's an odd number, I'm fine with it. So I guess, yeah, that's my only.
Which in this case you would, because the tiebreaker is the chair. And with 8, that leaves 7 members. And so you would never need a tie break unless you had somebody missing. So you'd always have, as long as you have quorum, that number of votes you need to move anything through. I'm just trying to bring it back in line with our other bodies.
Okay, again, before we get too deep into, let's get comments from the audience. So we're talking specifically about 188-010, which is creation and purpose. Specifically talking about the 9 members, and obviously there's some language changes that potentially will occur with the previous vote that we just took. Anybody want to comment?
Carol Kelly, Ellensburg resident. Speaking for myself, my only concern is with a 9-member commission, it can be difficult to have a quorum at every meeting. And trying to schedule 9 people to get together to a meeting can be problematic. So perhaps to streamline things, that going with a smaller commission might be a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, William Coleman, resident of Kittitas. Go to 7 members. Get rid of Cody Natland. He's nasty. Thank
Mr.
you.
Coleman, that's the only warning you're going to get. All right, council. So Josh, you made a suggestion. Are you making that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I am. Or is somebody speak up? I didn't want to talk over someone.
So the reason we expanded, we wanted more representation of various populations on the committee, but we also needed more people to help do the work, because this commission is a commission that has done the work, not function like other commissions. Now, we are going to change that. So I just want to clarify why the 9. And if you want to put it down to 8 or 7, that's okay. But we were organizing the community conversation that we had with the help of staff, and we were doing all the work that most commissions have a staff member to do that we didn't have. And that's why we felt like we needed some help.
So just to make sure I understand that, either your recommendation is either we're keeping it at 9 in order to currently address the workload that's currently within the group, or possibly modify the workload so that if we go to 7, it's something that's palatable.
I don't know that I have a recommendation on what to do about the members. I think 8 will be fine. I will say that 8 would put the chair as the tiebreaker. It has been on a rare occasions. I don't think I have ever voted to break a tie. We've never had a problem getting a quorum either. We did when people started resigning in the late fall or moving out of town. We had a couple of problems there. But we had everybody swear on a stack of Bibles that they would be at every meeting until we could get some more members on the commission, and that made it work.
And so just want to clarify that a commission of 8 would still have a quorum of 5 members.
Do we actually have to make a motion on this? I mean, can we come back with the staff recommendation on it? At least to talk about the numbers and say, hey, based upon the evaluation, staff recommends 7 or 9 or 8.
I guess I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it because we explicitly said 9 and we were at 7. So the council has given direction. I don't know that it's staff role to come back and tell us unless we were doing something that was against state rules or unwieldy or something like that. So
We have a suggestion. We don't have a motion though.
no, he was ready to make a motion. He hasn't made a
Okay,
motion.
sorry.
Josh, did
That's
you
correct.
present that in the way of a form of a motion?
Yes, I would like to, let me see, let me get the wording right. I'd like to move for the number of members on currently the DEI commission to be moved to 7 with the 8th person that's currently on there until there's an attrition of 1, and then it's 7 from there on. So nobody loses their seat.
Good luck with that language, but I think we understand what he's saying.
Yeah. I get
Is
it.
there a second to that motion? Okay, are there any other, sorry, that
Can
motion,
I-
yeah, go ahead.
You can go finish what the motion failed.
So the motion fails for lack of a second, understanding that it can be brought back up during first reading of an ordinance, because there's going to be a lot of language changes to this 188-010. And then I was going to ask, is there any other language changes suggested for 188-010?
I was just going to suggest we can revisit the number of members after we look at duties and which could relate to workload.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to suggest that.
We'll
as
come
well.
back there. If we make a substantive change to not tonight, we'll come back tonight. If not, it can
Okay.
be considered during first and second readings. Okay, the second section, and again, I'm just going to remind the audience, we're not talking about decisions that have been made in the past, the DEI commission. We are talking about this ordinance. We're going to stay on that. Okay, and I'm going to enforce that for people making comments. So the second section is going to be 188-020. This is the composition of the team, or excuse me, composition of the composition of the commission. When you see OM words. So as we read through there, again, we've got language changes that are obviously potentially going to follow this through. And then we have some problematic language that talks about specific groups to pull membership from. That's going to be corrected by staff, or at least you're going to give us language that you feel is going to be legal. Are there any changes beyond sort of making sure that this section aligns with the guidance that we've received?
This is the open question because I just don't know. Are all of our commissions on a 3-year term?
Not all of them, many of them.
Which ones are not?
I would have to look up
Okay.
and that
All
would
right.
be-
Wow,
That-
right in
Yeah.
public.
And a few years ago, we tried to streamline the appointment process and a lot of the terms, but some of the, I think like the planning commission has longer terms and, but a number of the commissions are on 3-year schedules.
Okay. And again, it doesn't give any significance to it. That was just a curiosity question.
So aside from the language suggestions that we know are coming through the city attorney, is there any other that council members want to discuss now?
Are we on 040?
We're on 020, excuse me, Josh. sorry.
Okay.
The actual term and composition of the commission itself.
The only thing that I would say is going back to what was just said previously, I think based upon the duties, the composition of maybe city residents might be of question. But I mean, currently it's at least 5 must be with the city, and that's basically on a commission of 9, which makes sense. As I guess the thing would be, as long as that's still the majority of the members is city limit. whatever that composition is.
So your input is that whatever the language, whatever we do to the overall number, that we maintain a majority of city residents as
Correct.
commission. Okay. Okay. Does anybody in the audience wish to have a conversation about this particular item, knowing that we're doing some legal language changes? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Position.
020.
Yep.
Pat Kelleher, Ellensburg. I came here tonight with my 3 minutes, as typical for the deal. And I didn't know that you're going to break it up into segments, that I'd probably end up with 20 minutes tonight.
Wow.
I know. And you guys were looking forward to it. So what I'm going to do is yield back the balance of my times and submit my written comments to the clerk. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move from 020 to 188-030. This is removal of vacancy, and that section was repealed, so we don't currently have removal or vacancy procedures. Okay. We're moving on to 188-040. This is subcommittees, and somebody mentioned they had a.
I think Josh did.
Oh, Josh, go ahead.
What did I?
We're on 040 now. Subcommittees.
Oh, I was just making sure I was on the right page with the rest of y'all.
Okay. So obviously some language changes in there. Does anybody want to change anything beyond name of the commission?
Well, I don't know if it's appropriate or not. Somewhere in here, talk with the city manager about this. There needs to be some kind of a clause for commission members to. Can't think of the word I'm trying to think. No, but if a decision is made and a person doesn't think it's a fair decision, there needs to be a process for hearing that decision. I can't think of the name.
A dissenting opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be with every commission, but I think this would be a time we could talk about putting that in here.
So
Could you-
my suggestion, just that would not be an ordinance. It would be a policy that we could either put in council rules or when we reframed the boards and commissions a few years ago, we created the appointment process. And so that
Okay.
There could
Got
be an appeal structure that applies to all of our boards and commissions as opposed to just one. So that would be staff
So why don't we
recommendation.
put that on future agenda? Add that language in consider that language for all commissions, committees.
I would just comment on this, if we're still on for the subcommittee. I think several of the committees that I serve on there are really very active subcommittee groups. They do a lot, as Councilmember Goodloe suggested, they do a lot of the sort of the heavy lifting when it comes to research and gathering information and putting things into place. So I think the main focus, the commitment to sort of allowing that specialized sort of focus should be maintained no matter how we describe it.
Okay. So if you have future language suggestions, maybe we bring that up. in first reading, if there's
I
anything
guess what I'm looking at is in the language where it says certain, to address certain DEI topics or certain topics or promote certain events. I'm not sure it needs to be that specific. I think it's at the discretion of the chair and the commission membership to decide what at any given time, what subcommittee needs to exist. Some are temporary and they do the work and they go away, and others are long-term. So I think less is more in this case.
Okay, we're going to move off of 040 without any substantive action by council. We're moving to 188-050. This is communication with council.
this is a question for Nancy Goodlow. Just as far as an opinion from the current members of that commission, does that language still work there? Or I guess the timetable. The timetable currently is receiving those receiving those funding requests by June 30th. Has that been problematic or been fine? If there's been no,
That's it. That's when all the funding requests have to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we just kind of try to work with the city on that, and do
That's
what everybody else has to do.
then that's the only thing I would have seen that.
On mine, what I was thinking, and it's another question for Nancy, is this way this particular section is written, it's entirely focused on the budget process. The question is, do we need some clarification on communication with council that doesn't involve just the budget issue or grant funding?
And I would tag on to that because we've talked about a work plan and, you know, that not all of that is tied to a budget allocation, nor is progress report or, you know, benchmarking or, you know, how are we doing? Did we meet our work plan? That isn't all a budget conversation. So I'd like to include language that talks about presenting the work plan and how we did on the work plan.
So you'll recognize in 1.88060, subsection E, that you actually have some of that language.
Okay, and it's that covers it. I'm happy.
Might be a suggestion to consider moving that into 050 or duplicating it, perhaps just reiterating it.
Yeah.
Either way.
Okay. Anybody in the audience wish to speak? Communication with council. Okay, now we're talking about 188-060. And this is going to be a little bit more of a free-for-all, though Mr. Clary left, so he doesn't get to see that. So I think the entire, you know, powers and duties and commission are sort of up. There could be additions as well as modifications or subtractions. So I guess I'm willing to take a more comprehensive view of this particular section. So it's all open for conversation.
Yeah. So I think this is just me, and Nancy Goodlow, I would love to get your feedback on this. I think the crux of the importance of the DEI Commission currently is D. Would you agree?
D?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Okay. And the reason why I'm saying that is simply because you kind of mentioned allusions to as far as currently their work capacity and all those kinds of things. And so if we wanted to focus on what is the central purpose, I wanted to hone in on what is the most important thing of that one to ensure that that's emphasized or prioritized. So you're saying that D and the subsections of 1 through 5 are kind of the top priority.
Well, if it's going to be the Community Engagement Commission, yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right.
Along those lines, does anybody have any specific language changes they would recommend for 188-060 D 1 through 5? Deletions, additions, or modifications?
On number 4, implement outreach strategies for improving city services, period.
Instead of semicolon?
Well,
No,
deleting
delete.
the last 3 words.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're going to take care of that.
Part of that, but yeah, okay.
Well, but I want to keep
Yeah.
implementing outreach strategies for improving city services.
So
The only word that's not in the duties and responsibilities that I think is really important is the word advocacy.
Would you be ready to maybe draft some language, or do you need a little bit of time to potentially get that to staff to put into a draft?
I could see what I could do with the language, yeah.
So potentially you're going to put in a statement regarding advocacy in terms of duties and responsibilities.
Yeah.
And you'll submit that directly to staff and that'll come back in the first the draft ordinance.
So Nancy, part of the reason why I wanted to focus on what is the priority of the DI commission is ensuring and identifying, okay, if D is the crux and most important part of this, are there parts of this that not necessarily could be sacrificed, but are less of a priority that could maybe remove some workload? Because again, D is meaning the action of the engagement piece. So what are those menial tasks that, and the reason why I look at that, A through C to me is somewhat not repetitive. A to C to me, I think can be collapsed into some evaluations and recommendations on some of these things. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just trying to see if there's an opportunity to reduce workload beyond the core priority of the commission.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. I like A to stay. I think there's a role there. We need to reword that. But B and C, B, I don't think we need B. I don't think we need C in light of the focus that was on the comprehensive plan process. The values that are already incorporated in that as a result of past history. There might be a time, I can't imagine what it would look like, that we would want to recommend an amendment to the comp plan. I don't know what that would be.
I think Josh had something to say.
But I also think, excuse me, Josh, let me just finish that thought.
Sorry.
That would be a part of the advocacy piece. So I think you could take C out without too much.
Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. So on A, the name, if we go with the name change to the community engagement, A and D are repetitive. You'd have A being advised city council on actions needed to sustain and improve community engagement. And then D is recommend for city council adoption of community engagement plan that includes. So they're just repetitive. I think those can be collapsed into one without really changing anything other than just making it cleaner. Language.
You guys take a stab at the language to make sure you're capturing.
Yeah, I would just say this is very helpful conversation. Thank you.
I actually I'm going to add something to E, or a suggestion for E. I don't see the work plan and the report, specifically spelled out. I see progress occurs, but I see how to achieve duties and responsibilities. I don't see the term work plan. I want to see the term work plan.
Yeah.
Report on with metrics, or here's how we decided whether or not we made progress or not.
So I guess one of the things that I would ask about that, just from a clarification standpoint, they currently have been putting out reports kind of on a biannual basis. Now, I would agree with you, maybe there's an opportunity for better metrics associated with them, but when we talk about the amount of those kinds of stuff, now we're talking about participation possibly increasing in something year over year, those kinds of things. Those are the type of metrics that, yeah, I would agree with you, should probably be helpful in something like that.
Completely agree with your part of your statement. That's the second part. The commission is asking specifically for council to give feedback and input into the work plan.
Gotcha.
So this is a staged effort. This occurs at the start of the year, at the start of the budget process, whenever we decide that's going to happen, and then there's a report towards the end of that process. And I want to see both.
Okay.
And the commission is asking for these.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
I appreciate what your clarification there. I know what you mean now.
So I would just like that language to be in there. If nobody has any
No, I agree.
position.
Condition.
I was just going to suggest on A, if we kept A and didn't collapse it into D, to expand it, to advise the city council on actions needed to sustain and improve community engagement, access to government services, cultural celebrations and belonging. But you could still use that language and collapse it into D. And the other thing I wanted to say is a lot of the other commission ordinances, they advise the council on stuff that the council sends to you and asks you for advice on, and that's not in here. It says that better than I just did. Can't remember the.
No, but you just,
Thank you.
okay, any comments from the audience? We're talking about 188-060. Yes, sir. I don't know if you were here for, do you understand the rules for public comment?
I think so. This is my second time here. My name is Camber Alsum. I'm a resident here in Ellensburg City. I'm speaking for myself, and there's probably something else that I forgot to say.
All good.
I want to say I do a lot of work with like rewarding stuff, business systems analyst, and I think especially Nancy, one of your last statements on the rewarding of A sounded really great. I agree that A and D, those first parts are kind of repetitive, but they really should be combined. But I think B is really important. I think, especially when you are trying to engage community, the review, the research, the knowledge on what wants, what the different cultures want, what the people here within the city want, and what them is a really important first step to ensure that following through with D and the 1 through 5 really can actually be executed in a functional, positive way. Agree, you know, itself is a little excessive, but yeah, I think it really could just kind of come down to like an A, or sorry, a B and a D, which really just re-letter those, but getting that review, getting that actual action, and then following up with it, I think it works really well. Definitely be rewarded, but I like the direction that it's currently sounding. So,
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to speak? Okay, that was clunky, but did we
This was.
no, you weren't. I was. I bet. So, my bad. Did not just call you clunky. Our process was clunky. Did we get you what you needed?
Yeah, and Mayor and Council, thank you very much. This is really helpful to have your discussion and guidance, and I think this was time well spent. So very much appreciate it, and we'll be back to you with edits to chapter 1.88 at a future meeting.
I'm intrigued by the last comment because I think I'm interpreting B differently than he is. And if that letter B initially was focused on city government and within city government, those processes and procedures. I kind of interpreted yours as saying within the city broadly, or?
You got to come up and talk because there are people online.
if this is for community engagement, then I read B as engaging in the community, getting that review, understanding what, let's see, what was it? So I understand that it says, examine the practices and procedures of the city of Ellensburg. Initially, in my mind, that was the city of Ellensburg, the people of Ellensburg, not the government of Ellensburg, right? And so, identify strategies to create those processes and services which recognize the needs and differences of those who live here. And so like the emphasis again on those who live here, that's what I was reading it as. Is
I like that. I've never thought of it in that way. So I would agree we need to keep it in there if we're going to.
especially as soon as we're changing the name to, community engagement.
Okay.
Community is what we really want to be reviewing, because you put 9 people or 7 people or however many onto a committee, they're going to have their own ideas. But if they're not engaging in the community to know how to help it, they're just going to, they might go down the wrong path.
be siloed.
So
Thank you, Dick.
Heidi, did you guys capture that and potentially?
I appreciate that these meetings are recorded, so
Okay.
yes, we can go back.
It's an opportunity to rewrite that one then. Because if you
Make it clear.
different and he saw it different, I definitely saw it different from both of y'all. So
Well, in my perspective was from the
It's just
initial,
Texas.
we
No.
first did this. It was
Yeah.
focused on city government.
Cool.
I just have one question. I'm not sure where it falls into this. So the grants that the current DEI commission gives, the community grants, is there a metric or a tracking on how successful those events are? You keep, I think that just because it is public dollars, and that seems to have been an issue in this past year that we had on how that money was allocated, that we should have something in here, that we should have some sort of feedback or report on how those events helped our community who attended, that kind of thing.
can it be part of the work plan?
And then part of the report.
Well, we get those reports and the commission reads them and they're very well done and there won't be a problem to share those.
I think in the ordinance, we should say give grants is part of their duties and whatever boundaries you want to provide for giving of grants.
I would recommend maybe another pathway. So thinking about what goes in ordinance, it's our city law. And so typically we have a policy passed by resolution that is a grant policy. Right now that covers our Parks and Recreation or partnership grants, our council funded grants. I would suggest if you wanted to memorialize that, we edit that through resolution and to that rather than the ordinance.
Where's the commission stuff?
This commission has its own
That's it,
policy.
because
and
it's a
its own
percentage of sales tax. Okay.
Correct. And then those three grant categories that landmarks are the historic preservation grants, those have a third of a percentage of sales tax. And that's the amount that we contribute each year to those grant programs. And so there could be a mechanism that we create either a flat rate or a percentage rate for the grants if council wanted to move in that direction.
I just thought I was remembering that it was like part of the duties of the Environment Commission or something, but not.
Yeah, I don't think
could
we have
be
that
in a
framed
different
in the
place.
ordinance itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We are going to move on to item 11A. This is West Ellensburg Park Playground purchase. There will be an opportunity for public comment. This is page 53 in the packet.
Good evening, Council. Mr. Mayor, Brad Case, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Ellensburg. Before you this evening is a request to authorize the purchase of a new playground for West Ellensburg Park, as well as the necessary budget adjustments to make that purchase. In our 2026 budget, we have $150,000 budgeted for a new playground at West Ellensburg. The city has been partnering with the Rotary Club and working on purchasing equipment with them. They have received a grant for $20,000 to help with the purchase of equipment. And they're also going to participate in what's called a community build of the playground. So we'll have staff from the playground manufacturer on hand to kind of oversee the process. But the Rotary is going to be doing the installation piece, which is going to cost or save us approximately another $30,000. So staff is requesting an additional $40,000 through our REIT 2 money to cover the purchase price. Our existing playground at West Ellensburg Park is 29 years old and in need of replacement. Play Creation, which is a local playground manufacturer on Rotary Park and North Alder Street Park, has provided the city with 3 concept plans, all of which include a big toy, inclusive play elements, and swing sets. The selected addresses many of the needs shared by the community through our park plan update process, which includes improving and updating existing park facilities, providing accessible play features, and partnering with local agencies and organizations to enhance recreational opportunities in our community. At their November 12th, 2025 meeting, the Parks and Rec Commission reviewed the 3 concepts and voted unanimously to recommend the playground concept being presented to council for consideration tonight. In another effort to kind of reduce costs, staff will be performing the demolition of the existing playground and prepping the site for the new playground. The existing playground footprint will need to be expanded a little bit to accommodate the new play elements. We anticipate starting this work within the next 3 weeks with the hopes of having the playground installed by June 1 of 2026. There are funds in our REAP 2 account to cover the cost of this project. And I want to take the opportunity to thank the council for allocating money towards REAP, from REAP to Parks and Recreation 2 or 3 years ago. Without that move, we wouldn't be doing this project. And so we have right now about a $1.2 million in that account. That money is much more flexible in terms of how it can be used as opposed to something like park impact fees. And so without that move, we probably wouldn't be making this purchase. So I just wanted to thank you for that. So I'll just kind of walk you through a little bit to give you a visual of what we are going to be doing.
Apparently you touched the wrong button.
And if somebody could tell Councilmember Thompson I had to mute him, he's got an echo.
Yeah.
Josh, they had to temporarily mute you. It's not personal. Oh, we're getting some feedback. Yeah.
Council.
Thank you, Drew. Okay, so this is our existing playground at West Ellensburg Park. For its age, it's in good shape. It's just to the point where if we have parts fail or if they're vandalized, it's next to impossible to get replacement parts for it. So it's a well-loved and well-used piece of playground equipment. I've had multiple people from the community ask what we're going to do with it. But it's something that has certainly served its life and has treated our community well. This is a concept of the new playground equipment. And so just kind of walking you through it. We'll use the existing sidewalk that leads into the playground. The green surfacing is what's called playground grass. And so it's a synthetic grass material, which is a little bit easier to navigate, maybe for those that have some special needs. Within that area, we have some sensory play. We have what equates to basically a merry-go-round. And then we actually added a component late. It's a little musical instrument piece that kids can play, and I'll show you pictures of all those a little bit closer later in the presentation. There's our big toy, and then we have swing sets as well, and so a couple full-size sets of swings, couple youth swings, and then we have kind of a unique swing that more than one person can use at a time. Swings are what we get probably the most requests from the community. People want more swings, and so we're going to be able to provide that for them. So that's a over the head view of what we have. And so really the area where the swing sets are located, that's going to be the expanded footprint of the existing play area. Right now, it's just kind of open grass area. We do have a bench in that location that we'll have to remove, but it really doesn't impact the day-to-day use of that park. That's an actual photo of the big toy. So you can see it's able to accommodate lots of kids at once. A couple different slide opportunities for kids, some ropes and some climbing, some active and passive play areas within that. That's another visual of it. So as you can see, much more modern than what we currently have out there. That's the swing I was referring to. And so it's kind of like a net. So you can actually put 2 people in there at once. It could be an adult, it could be a child. It could be a child, maybe, transfer from a wheelchair up into that net. But it would be a unique component to our park system. We don't have anything like that right now. So that gives you another visual of what that would look like. And so in addition to that, there would be two sets of swings on both sides of that cargo net swing. That's the merry-go-round I was referring to. So a little different than the merry-go-rounds that I grew up with, a little safer, a little less exciting. And there is the xylophone that we're going to add to it as well. So and then sensory panel. So this is, kids can come up and touch it with if they have any kind of auditory or sensory kind of special needs there. And then basically a table for kind of imagination or imaginary play. So really trying to provide lots of different options for the wide ranges of kids that use our parks. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Council questions of staff.
Well, Brad, since you brought it up, I gotta ask, what is the plan for the old equipment?
We will demo it and dispose of it.
Is there any opportunity to relocate it to a park that does not have it at all?
No, once you remove it, it's really hard to repurpose it.
That's a lot of it is wood that was pre-treated originally,
Correct.
obviously subsurface, and then trying to do it back in the ground, you've got it exposed and
Yep.
deterioration. Okay.
Our plan will be to come back in future budget years with additional playground purchases. We have, 2 or 3 more that we would really like to be able to make. So
I would like to see the waste diversion from doing that, but I understand what you're saying. I think it'll be important for staff to be able to clearly, eloquently talk about the details of why it would be disposed as opposed to being recycled, because I think a lot of people.
Yeah, well, or surplus it to a church or something. I mean,
Surplus it, yeah, surplus it. Let it be somebody else's problem.
yeah,
that they
and
can
then
put in the-
they could figure out if they can put it in or not.
I had a question.
Say-
Go ahead.
Have a weenie roast.
Thanks for the presentation. I was going to ask, you mentioned the park turf, and I see that in the green. Is the area under the big toy and the swings, what's the surface material?
that's the engineered wood fiber. And so
That's
that's
all
what you see
like
in some of the
concrete.
existing playground areas.
Breaks the fall.
Yeah.
Remember those beautiful jungle gyms that were made of metal and it was sitting on
Oh,
concrete?
yeah, I remember that.
And you would plinko all the way down?
Made you tough.
Rubber mats.
It made you tough. No?
Yeah.
Good deal. Slivers then.
Yeah, well, I remember a lot of gravel
Hip, hip
in my
fracture.
kid's pocket.
And
Good.
the playground grass is about $25 a square foot. And so it's expensive. It's expensive product. So that's why we just kind of focus it in that one area.
Is any of that playground turf, is that padded underneath or is it just on the?
It's on an aggregate. And then what they have as infill, they have acrylic coated sand that kind of weighs it down. And so it's not, a lot of the athletic field turf is crumb rubber or cork or something like that, but this is a sand.
One more, you mentioned benches. Will there be any benches? Are you going to put the bench back in?
We probably won't put that bench back in. It's old. It's an older bench, but we'll try to repurpose it somewhere else maybe. But we will add some seating to that location.
Thank you. That's important.
We're gonna need that for the grandparents that are babysitting their grandchildren out there.
Yep.
Any other comments? Anybody in the audience?
Beryl Kelly, Ellensburg resident. I'm excited to see the new equipment. I think our kids deserve to have play spaces that can be shared. And one of my concerns is 2 swings. There's 2 infant swings and 2 older child swings. That's not enough swings. So I hope that in the not too distant future, we can get some more budget to, because how many children use West Ellensburg Park in a day? I know that there's more than 2 kids that are going to want to be on those swings and they're going to be fighting over it. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, they're looking for budget adjustments and an approval.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to authorize the necessary budget adjustment and purchase of a new playground at West Ellensburg Park.
Second.
Motion second to authorize budget adjustments and the purchase of new playground equipment for West Ellensburg Park. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Item 11B, page 62, 2026 Community Development Long Range Planning Work Program. Josh, you got some feedback going again. There will be a public opportunity, comment opportunity.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Stacy Henderson, Planning Manager. What you have before you is the Long Range Planning Work Program for 2026. Each year, we bring this to you to provide an overview and allow for City Council to review the work items being addressed this year by planning. As you may have noticed, the plan that we provided started on page 64. It's in a little bit of a different format than the usual table. because it's a bit of a unique year and we have a lot of things we're working on. So I'll keep it fairly brief. Excuse me. But just to run through it, obviously a main item is the periodic update, which we're working on throughout the year. We have two rounds of code updates that we're going to be proposing to you all this year. The first being in June. We will be proposing some required state updates and some general code cleanup, just a few items. And then in December, we will be proposing regulation updates that are consistent with the comprehensive plan, because by then we'll have an updated comprehensive plan. And with that comes a huge batch of associated code updates. Also, by the end of the year, we have some required state mandated code updates as well. On page 65, as we included, as you can see, manufactured homes and parks, that's a staff initiated update. We wanted to kind of update some items with regards to manufactured home parks and those codes. One item being existing regulations for manufactured home parks require a minimum of 3 acres to establish a new park, and accessory structure separation requirements exceed those for other uses. The areas we currently have zoned for manufactured home parks, not many of them are 3 acres. So just kind of aligning different things that we have in real life with what's in the code. So this year, we also have item 3, official zoning map. Staff has updated the zoning map this year to be current, but we will also be this year codifying a process for adopting and amending an official zoning map. So it is current, but we have noticed there is no process. So to have an official zoning map, we're going to create that process this year. And then there will be citizen initiated code updates as applicable. We haven't received any at the moment, but we could. And then we did include the 2025 work program tracking. So we kind of listed some of the items that we did complete last year, including the comprehensive plan annual docket, ordinance 4977. As I stated, we updated the zoning map and did an enormous code update that you all saw and loved reading. And then item E, we included these items that we don't want to fall off the radar, but may not get to this year. These are items that have been on the lists in previous years. And so we're keeping them and we are working on them, but because of the periodic update, we may not get to them this year. It depends on what comes up. So, but we do want to work on them and are working on them, and we're not throwing them off the list. So those items include street standards, planned unit develop ordinance, conditional use permits, items that have come up in the past. So staff requests that council move to approve the 2026 Community Development Long Range Planning Work Program.
Council questions of staff.
Specific to on page 67, transferable open space rights, Doug and Matt Stalder request. Is that a request from private citizens to make that change, or is that a staff recommendation? I'm a little bit confused on how that's worded there.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dan Carlson, Community Development Director. Yeah, that was a request from a citizen. I believe it was year before last.
Okay.
That was one that we didn't dig too deep into, but we kept it on the list so that we could track it for future work.
Okay, gotcha.
Any other questions?
Could I ask a follow-up on that? If you were, so it's presented as an open space transfer of open space. Would the structure of that be similar to a normal TDR? Development rights per se? I mean, I get that they're trying to.
I think that was the idea behind the proposal.
So it's specific to off-site improvements like wetland banking or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
On 4 and, or no, the official zoning map, during, In the update process, have we done like a gap analysis to make sure that the zones are consistent with the overlying future land use map? It seems like when I was diving into where to put a grocery store up north, I found areas zoned residential suburban in a future land use that didn't allow residential suburban. So are we making those things consistent or doing?
So we've been working on updating the map to come forward at the end of the year as a part of this, but I don't think we've done that analysis yet, but we could do that through GISs. Look at the zoning district and
I mean,
consistency with.
I could be wrong. It could be all consistent, but I think it would be worth the effort to make sure that we're zoning. If our vision is to have it this and we've zoned it that, and the legal is the zone is what controls, not our vision. If I understand right. So I think we need to be consistent.
Right, and should be a fairly straightforward exercise using GIS to do that analysis.
Thank you.
No further questions. Anybody in the audience wish to speak? Nobody online? Council?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve 2026 Community Development Long Range Planning Work Program.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the 2026 Community Development Long Range Planning Work Program. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I too will vote aye opposed. Motion passes. Page 68, item 11C. This is Ellensburg's 2026 opioid funding contribution for distribution through Gould City County grant processes. There will be an opportunity for public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Heidi Barron, Sternaway City Manager. You do have a recommendation before you to designate a specific amount of funding to the pooled opioid settlement funds. And so this, if you recall at the meeting, the second meeting in December of 2025, you had an interlocal agreement with Kittitas County to pool opioid settlement funding to get those out in the community. And so this is a very special pot of money that has very specific guidelines on it. It's a restricted pot. And it was, these dollars are coming into both the city and the county as part of an opioid settlement. And they have to be used for, again, for very specific reasons. And so the interlocal set up the structure to jointly run a grant process for agencies to apply for this funding. One of the requirements is that the city and county would designate each year how much money they wanted to set forth into the pool to distribute through grant process. The county is overall, they believe through the first settlement, they'll be receiving a little over $2 million. Right now, they've received a little over $400,000. This year, they're setting aside about $300,000 for the pooled grant fund process. The city expects through the first settlement to get just under $500,000. Overall, right now, we've collected $169,000. And so staff are making the recommendation that the council would set aside $100,000 of those to pool with the county's $300,000 to distribute through funding. One of the requirements through the match process is the city actually pays into this to support the harm reduction program. We pay 10% of that. The county pays 90%. That's about $100,000 a year project. And then the city also contributes 10% of whatever dollars move forth to help pay for administrative costs to administer all of the grant programs, and the city would have a representation on the grant selection. We would also do our own reporting. So the recommendation for $100,000 does include the 10% administrative fee that would go to the county for managing this process. So the recommendation before you is $100,000 for 2026, and I have opportunity to answer any questions.
Council, questions of staff? Hearing none, is there anybody in the audience? Online? Council?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve $100,000 in restricted opioid settlement funds to be pooled with Kittitas County funds to distribute through the grant process established through the interlocal agreement between Kittitas County and the city of Ellensburg for pooling of opioid funds for the 2026 cycle and to make necessary budget adjustments.
Second.
That was a long.
I was
motion.
waiting for him to get through
It was a
it.
long motion.
I'm glad he did it.
So a motion and second to approve $100,000 to go into the pooled grant fund through the ILA and make necessary budget adjustments. Is there any discussion?
I just want to clarify that this is the first installment, and that the future funds and the 69,000 that's left over would support next year's grant funds and
That is-
possibly the next year's.
That is correct. Again, that's a final settlement from the first set will be about $500,000 in of funding. At this point, we only have $169,000. So yes.
Any further questions? Any further discussion? Excuse me. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I too will vote aye opposed. That motion passes. City Manager's Report 12A.
Thank
Page 71.
you, Mayor and Council, Heidi Behrens, Turnaway City Manager. Just a few things I will add, and then I would like to spend a few minutes talking a little bit about recreation funding, just to prepare for items that are coming before you, potentially at your meeting on March 2nd. Reminder that first we have Ellensburg Academy. We are actively seeking signups. I think we have a little over 30 people that have registered as of today. And we have room for about 70 people. So should be a lot of fun. 2 nights, March 8th and March 11th and 18th from 6 to 9 p.m. And you can come learn and celebrate. Somebody reminded me this is the 250th anniversary of our country. So opportunity to brush up on your civics, especially when it comes to local government. So great opportunity. Reminder that we are applying for a Freight Mobility Strategic Investment Board grant. That's a pot of money that we have not gone after for transportation improvements. Just to have council awareness on, and this is a project that would improve University Way and Water Street. Excuse me. And then one of the things we are always looking at how we can improve. And so item 5 on the manager's report talks about a customer service survey we are initiating, and we'll have that open. We'll have links on our website, links in our buildings and facilities, opportunities to share when you have a positive interaction, or if there's something that we can do better when you interact with our team. So feel free to fill that out and share that. And again, it will try to make it ubiquitous and an opportunity for anybody who has an interaction to share with us. So a couple of items, and one in particular that will potentially, we're working toward coming to you, and that is the field house project. And so we've had a number of discussions over time about the field house project. As you recall, we framed new process. This is something we've never done. It's a lease back option. And so we did an RFQ process that you approved that project and that process, I think at your November meeting, or maybe it was October meeting. We initiated the RFQ. We did receive one response. We've been through the review process on that. Right now, we're working on a letter of intent or letter of commitment similar to what we do for the Affordable Housing Commission to designate projects. And so at a high level, it frames what the agreement would be about, the terms of, and that would initiate contracting. What that does, it commits us to funding the project. And so before that gets to you next week, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the plans we've talked about, some of the work that we've done. I will, at your next meeting, I will have an item that will talk about funding. And so we'll do a formal presentation. So this will be part of your packet. But just want to remind you of some of the work that we've done to look forth, especially for the field house. And so on the dais tonight, I actually just made a copy of the July 7th, 2025 council packet. And in there, we talked about the field house project when we were looking at, again, the lease back basically is we lease a parcel of property at Rotary Park. And the developer actually builds the project. They take their own risk to build the project. We have a not to exceed amount for construction. And then we create terms to lease that project back. In the agreement, there will be opportunity to do an early buyout or buy down of that project. So we could either continue the lease or refinance at a later date. So we're looking at a number of scenarios. How can we afford to operate and to lease the facility, what that funding structure might look like, and what could potential buyout options look like, and how would we fund those? And so what we know is that we will need to be creative. We did have the Ballard King, it's a consultant. They did an operations study that provided some information for how much operations would cost of about a 60,000 square foot facility. So we have some data that we're working off, a study. And so we did put together a funding plan for operations and also for lease, and then for potential buyout. And so again, there's more work that we will refine and continue to refine on this, but just wanted to remind you of that. And as we have been preparing for the Public Facilities District discussion, that came to you several times last year as well. We've been working with the folks at the county. The county is working with Commerce to identify if actually they have a consultant that will be working on the feasibility study. As a part of our pre-work, we've looked at scenarios to what would public facilities dollars fund for us. And so we focus those to help support operations and some of the debt service for the field house potentially, if we were to purchase that, and also potentially for a pool. And so we're calling it the Kittitas Valley Aquatic Center. And excuse me, is that right? Aquatic Center. Thank you. I'm off on my acronyms right now. And so we've done some initial planning for that and putting together the dollars. Again, I will present this. We've done some setting up of scenarios. These are planning level numbers. And what we'll do is we'll publish, we'll refine these and publish these with the packet. The one thing that we need is a takeaway that we will need new revenues to fund a new pool facility and potentially to do debt service. We need other revenue sources, and those will be actions by council and also our community to help support those items. So just laying the groundwork for that. And then on the last manager's report, I believe I had framed sort of the next steps for the pool replacement. And so I just wanted to talk briefly about that as well. So right now, we had actually set up a two-step process, and we're turning this into a three-step process. One of the things we recognize is through our Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan, which will be at your next study session, we recognize that the pool facility replacement is probably the #1 priority in our community. And so, so that's rising to the top. But what we didn't answer is what are the goals we need to meet with a facility as we start to think about designing and replacing a facility or reusing our current facility for some. And so what are the needs in our community, not just the wants, the needs in our community, and what are the goals we're trying to achieve? So as we move and finish up the Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan, we're going to ask our consultant to expand our scope of work to do some additional outreach, community outreach and planning on prioritizing those needs and goals. And so that's one item. The second item we're going to work on is really a facility reuse and feasibility report. What we understand is if we replace the current pool with a new pool, we don't have enough ground to just create something next to it. We know that our park, the Veterans Memorial Park, is used for fair and rodeo as part of the event center, sort of expansion space. And so we also recognize that closing down the pool to tear it down. It's the only pool in Kittitas County, a public pool right now, and it wouldn't be a realistic goal to say, let's just close this down, tear it down, especially after we've spent over $1 million on a roof replacement, an HVAC system, and some other improvements really in between last year and the next year or two. And so and also having our community to go without a pool for a couple of years while we're doing demolition and reconstruction likely good scenario. So what we recognize is there may be some value in the current pool. We've talked about a reuse study. And so asking a consultant, working on a consultant to help us identify what the best pathway and how much of that facility could be reused for a pool or new aquatic facility, or partially repurposed and maybe expanded a footprint, and how the impacts to the park and to the event center and surrounding communities. So that's sort of the next feasibility study we're asking for. And we hope that we'll have that request out to our vendors in the next week or so. And then after all of those pieces come together, we'll be able to start on pre-design. We'll have the answer to, do we need to phase a project? Where's the best location? And answer those questions. So all these planning level funding dollars and proposals, those will get refined and improved over time, and we'll decide what we can afford as we move through this process. So a lot going on behind the scenes to help think through planning for future recreation facilities. And so we're going to start moving into engaging the community and engaging a consultant network as well.
Questions to the city manager?
No, looking forward to the feasibility process. It's really important. So.
Okay. Now we're going to go to council reports. Josh.
Is the feedback better?
You're good.
Perfect. Not much this last week. Was busy with family, with work. I did get to go do another ride along on Saturday night. Always fun going out. We ran into the notorious teenage drinker at the top of Craig's Hill, along with a couple of other traffic stops. But I think it's always good to go out and support EPD when we can. And as I always encourage, if you haven't yet, go do a ride along. I learn a lot about our city. That's it.
Thank you.
All my stuff is upcoming. We did have an affordable housing meeting last on the 4th. Nothing big that came out of that other than talking about some of the recent awards that the city council did, or approvals the city council did on a couple of affordable housing projects coming up. So all my stuff is in the future.
David.
Let's see. Did the planning commission meeting on the 12th. I had a schedule malfunction, so I missed the finance committee meeting. And then I spent a good chunk of one day at a budget retreat.
Nancy.
The budget retreat, and today I attended the Ellensburg Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. I was elected chair of that. We had a couple of visitors from the Kittitas County Developmental Disabilities Advisory Commission. And I think that we learned some things from them, and they learned some things from us. I don't think they weren't aware that the paratransit was available to them. So I think, and Betsy committed to going to one of their meetings and talking to their whole committee. So.
Nancy.
Yes, I also attended the retreat. Had a Parks and Recreation Commission meeting last week, and we got a look at the future and some of the future park plans. Pretty exciting things. Council will be seeing that in the future. We have COG tomorrow night, and the Homeless Affordable Housing Committee got canceled because of President's Day.
Sir.
Okay, so LTAC, lodging tax, we were visited by, am I allowed to talk about that? Okay. By the rodeo board, our county auditor, and some of the event centers staff. They're going to be asking the lodging tax for some money to help with the completion of the grandstands and the construction that's going on out at the rodeo. So that will be coming to council probably next month. Yeah, okay. Arts Commission, I learned a lot. It was my first one attending. We've got a lot of new venues for First Friday Art Walk, so that's really picking up, which is exciting. And then there's also a lot of work being done on a city administrative fee thing that we aren't, I don't even know how to, the commission is working on the language that's in the city. Is it an ordinance? Is it a?
Admissions tax?
Admissions, yeah. So it's a very big deal right now that they're working through. So that will be coming probably to us in the future as well. KitCom, I always refer to Rich because he's much more eloquent with it. And that is all I have.
So an update on KitCom, we continue to add staff and do the work that we promised in the 2/10 sales tax initiative. So things are generally going very positively in that respect. I did spend a day last week in Olympia talking with 2 of our 3 representatives. For obvious reasons, Representative Dent wasn't available. And they are very supportive of our legislation requests, although many of them won't be considered in this session. And we did have 2 capital funding requests that were that received support, but I don't know what the disposition of those is yet. So it was worthwhile. I was down there for 911 as well, so it made sense. I wanted to bring up the COG meeting that is tomorrow. We have on our dais a draft letter potentially from the Conference of Governments, Kittitas County COG, of which Nancy Goodlow and myself represent the city of Ellensburg. And the item concerns the internal discussions about President Wolpert and a vote of no confidence and whether or not that is the business of Kittitas County Conference of Governments. And so I want to start with that conversation. David asked me earlier this evening if he, we felt like, we can have independent, input into COG, and I think we can. We should be always, mindful of the city of Ellensburg, and our personal opinion gets set aside when it's not in the best interest of the city of Ellensburg. And so I would actually like the council to answer the question, do you want the city of Ellensburg to weigh in on this matter? And it's just a straight up yes, no question. And I want a vote, because if the answer is no, we don't need to go any further in the conversation.
So you guys know that I'm at the university. So just trying to remain neutral in this. Yes, I do have a stance on this particular thing that's happening. I think it's important for the city to remain neutral on this. And the reason why is because we have citizens that are on both sides of this discussion. And I think our role is supporting the broader community, no matter what's happening. So I have a personal interest on what's happening on one particular side of this, but I think in this role is on city council, our responsibility is to remain neutral on it. So
does anybody disagree with that point of view? I guess we should start there. Is anybody in support of the city kind of wading into this? During council reports, we don't accept public input.
I do not want to wade into this.
I'd like us to stay out of it.
Okay. So I feel like when we get council consensus or a vote, that it is Nancy and my position that if you tell us to, say we don't want to be a part of this and we don't think it's a role for city government, for the city of Ellensburg, that's the stand we will take tomorrow. Okay. Okay.
So how does it work if the rest of the communities say yes and want to send this letter?
We don't sign it.
You just, okay.
Not going to be signatories to it.
But it's signed by the Council of Governments, not.
Yeah, we will express our opinion. They're public meetings, by the way. COG, you can show up at the city, at the county courthouse.
It's in Cle Elum this week.
Oh, it's in Cle Elum, yeah. So, okay, show up and there is an opportunity for public comment and you can express your sentiments.
yeah, by all means, express personal stuff and everything like that, but as a body.
Well, we're going to stay on the side of represent the city. I'm not going to have a personal opinion. Okay, that's all I need. We're going to go into apparently an executive session covering 2 subjects.
Items, and so it's actually 2 separate executive sessions, 10 minutes each. There will be no action following.
Okay, one is site acquisition for real estate and legal representation for enforcement action. So again, 2 10-minute executive sessions will come back. The only action we will take will be to adjourn. And we're going to go into executive session in 2 minutes.
And Councilmember Thompson, I will call you.
Okay.
You've been calling, let's talk about.
Good job.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Some good points. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, glad that, you know, you got this is so, yeah, how to interpret the terminologies.
Yeah.
Because I've had to deal with that a lot of.
My naughty horse.
How one person reads it, another person doesn't.
Sure.
Definitely impact it.
Yeah. Well, I know that when we